So jumping right back into this, I can see that the freedom of conscience, these two be a little bit confusing. It might take some time to reflect on and think about. And behold, instead of giving a firm foundation for setting the conscience of man at rest forever, so that would be setting the conscience of man at rest, the freedom of having, not needing the freedom from the burden of conscience. So you could say that having a conscience has a price to pay, and that's a burden. And that's the price of freedom. You pay for the price of the burden of freedom. And did you forget that, to the freedom of choice and the knowledge of good and evil. You don't have to choose between good and evil if you don't have to think about it. Now, this is probably my favorite line in the text. Thou did choose all that is exceptional, vague, and enigmatic. These are three qualities that the Great Spirit cares about. And so you could say three qualities that arise from freedom. Something exceptional, something vague, and something enigmatic. We're going to just give you a little. What is hard to solve or figure out, a bit mysterious to others, behind an enigmatic smile or thoughts impossible to guess. I've always sensed a certain intelligence with resembling an enigma to this word. Mysterious, puzzling, difficult to understand. God, this great spirit God revels in the mysterious, maybe even the fascinating, the interesting, the curious. Mysterious and infinite God. A different kind of God than a orderly, reasonable, understandable God. This is incomprehensible. Thou did choose what was utterly beyond the strength of men, acting as though he didn't love them at all. Even though he gave his life for them, instead of possessing their freedom to, ease their burden, he burdened the whole spiritual kingdom of mankind with its sufferings forever. Thou did desire man's free love, that he should follow thou freely, enticed and taken captive by thee. The Great Spirit believes that if you want to serve me, I'm not going to make ya. In the place of rigid ancient law, he must thereafter with free heart decide for himself what is good and evil, having only thy image before him as thy guide. That means not having the comfort of other people, of your society, of your world, not lack of comfort, lack of security from outside forces. I'll leave it at that. And we'll say comfort, security from outside forces. Now, I don't know if you can see how deep this is, but if I model the average Christian, we could say that they say, I don't believe in the, I don't live in the world. I believe in, we'll just say Christianity. I believe in Christianity. This is not only thy image as thy guide. This is the comfort of what Christianity offers to you to believe in and think. And this gives you the comfort of not having a conscience, because your conscience is given to you. Why? Because if someone tells you, because if you need to verify what you believe, you fact check with another believer who validates you. Now, who does the believer look up to? Well, he looks up to the priest. And who does the priest look up to? He looks up to the Pope. And the after the 4 Gospels, we have Acts, and we start laying out these foundations for Christianity, Romans, and we lay out okay, here's who Christ left in charge, and if you need to comfort your conscience, you're going to look up to this person, and they're going to validate to make sure that you are on the correct Christian path and that you have not gone astray. But God didn't know, the Great Spirit didn't know that man would reject even your image and your truth if he's weighed down with the fearful burden of free choice. He's actually going to reject. He says, man's going to reject you. And they'll cry around that at last that the truth is not in you. That the Great Spirit is not in the Great Spirit of freedom. That's not the truth. Because that just leaves me confused. Freedom leaves me confused and suffering in laying upon them so many cares and unanswerable problems. Why? Because if everyone tells you what's right, then you can set your conscience at rest. It doesn't really work if you're pretty adamant about your faith. But you can have some temporary comfort. That's okay. Here's the answers. You can know. You can feel that you know what God is and who God is and what to do. You can feel that you know. There's security. So I offer you security with my religion. Getting up to this point, it does not seem that Dostoevsky is truly on the side of the Inquisitor. I do not think that he would really advertise this. This is, I think he was hoping that his audience would break this apart. So there's 3 powers alone. Able to hold and conquer and hold captive forever the conscience of these impotent rebels for their happiness. Miracle, mystery, and authority. This is his three temptations. The Great Spirit rejects the three qualities that man desires. If you would, so the serpent, the spirit of the wilderness said, well, if you would know whether you are really the Son of God, then cast yourself down with a miracle and kind of prove it. So we know for sure. Prove then how great is thy faith in thy Father. Come to Rome and demonstrate your power to these ignorant masses and show them, rain down thunder from the sky so that they know, like, oh my gosh, that I know certainly I've got proof. I put my faith in what I see. I put my faith in circumstance. The circumstance is that thunder and lightning are coming out of this guy. He looks like Thor, so he must be the Messiah. So, that'll prove then how great your faith is in your Father. Prove it. Show us. But the weak, unruly race of men, are they gods? Wow. Are men really of the nature of Christ? Well, thou did know then that in taking one step, in making one movement to cast yourself down, you would be tempting God and have lost all your faith in him and would have been dashed to pieces against the earth, which you had come to save. So just model this. Christ is on the edge of a cliff. We'll just say he's on the edge of a cliff. And the statement here is made that if he jumps off that cliff to prove himself and his faith in God, this action would have actually caused him to lose his faith in God. And he would have been dashed to pieces against the earth. The actual act to try to prove and manifest in reality is a lack of trust in his Father. It is a lack of trust in, and the wise spirit would have rejoiced. That would have been a pretty stupid move. If you need to see it to believe it. Like, well, if I'm really the Son of God, then God will protect me if I jump off this cliff. That is not faith. That is not trust. At least according to Dostoevsky. And thou couldst thou believe for one moment that men too could face such a temptation? I mean, don't you want to see a miracle? Don't you want to see, I'm the Son of God. If I jump off this cliff and I just start flying like that, I want to see that. Thou did know that thy deed would be recorded in books the utmost end of time, that hope that man following me would cling to God and not ask for a miracle. What is a miracle in this sense? We're talking about a physical phenomena. The Great Spirit hopes that man following you would cling to God. What's God here? The Great Spirit of freedom in this case, and not ask for a miracle. Man, that would take a pretty... You just want me to trust in you without any... But thou did not know that when man rejects miracle, he rejects God too. For man does not actually seek God. He seeks the miraculous. What does this mean? It means that Dostoevsky is saying, I think I'd want to put this in the Inquisitor. Or I'll just put it as the meta. That man does not follow God. Man believes in, man does not seek God. Man seeks miracles. What are these miracles called? They're what we're calling the keep it as miracle because we'll see what we come to here. Man can't bear to be without the miraculous. He'll create new miracles of his own for himself. He'll worship deeds of sorcery and witchcraft, though he might be 100 times over a rebel, heretic, and infidel. Thou did not come down from the cross when they shouted to thee, mocking and reviling thee. Come down from the cross, and we will believe that thou art he. He did not prove it. He would not enslave man by a miracle. And he did crave faith given freely, not based on miracle, not based on circumstantial evidence. Because imagine that I give your brain circumstantial evidence to agree with the reasoning mind. I've seen it, and therefore it is. That's not the kind of faith that supernatural faith is. That's faith in circumstance. Faith in what changes, what manifests, what is seen, not what could be. Faith not in possibility. Because possibilities, if you have faith in possibility, things could happen beyond your comprehension of what you believe could happen. Thou did crave for free love, and not the base raptures of the slave before the might that has overawed him forever. But thou did think too highly of men, for they are slaves, though rebellious in nature. Look around the judge. 15 centuries have passed. Look upon them. What person has ever been raised to the image of Christ? Man's weaker than God believes in him. Whoa. Man is weaker than thou hast believed him, according to the mind of reason, the Grand Inquisitor. What does that mean? That means that the Great Spirit believes that man is stronger than man believes. If we invert that, man is weaker and baser by nature than thou hast believed. Which means that the Spirit has great faith in man, believes that man can. Can he do what thou didst? Whoa. That means that the Spirit believes that man could do what Christ did by showing him so much respect. So much respect. Thou ceased to feel for him, for his the Great Spirit didn't feel for man's frail nature, and he just asked too much of him, even though he claims to love him more than his own self. He loves man more than his own self, and yet he asks too much of him. Kind of a pretty silly statement to make when you actually look at it. Respecting him less, just respect man less. So respect man less is what the Inquisitor says. That would have been just don't believe in him. In other words, don't believe in man. There's your Freudian belief system. That would have been more like love, for his burden would have been lighter. He is weak and vile. He is weak and vile, and though he is like this is the Inquisitor's like fundamental truth. Man is weak and vile. Though he's everywhere now rebelling against our power, and he's proud of our rebellion. Whoa. So, I don't know what I'm saying, whoa. But freedom is rebelling against the power of the church. The great spirit of freedom in man rebels against the power of the church, and he's proud of his rebellion. The pride of a child and schoolboy. What do we call that? We call that a childlike pride, a naive pride. But is that bad? It's a question. Their childish delight will end, and it will cost them dearly. They will cast down temples and drench the earth with blood, but they'll see at last these foolish children that though they're rebels, they're impotent rebels, unable to keep up with their own rebellion, bathed in their foolish guilt. They'll recognize at last that he who created them rebels must have meant to mock at them. They will say this in despair, and their utterance will be a blasphemy, which will make them more unhappy still, for man's nature cannot bear blasphemy. Man can't especially bear if everyone else calls him a blasphemer. That is not a very comforting, secure thought, is that everyone calls you a blasphemer. So, say meta here that freedom might get you called a blasphemer. But which is more important, thy image or the external image? And in the end, it always avenges it on itself. And so unrest, confusion, and unhappiness, that is the present lot of man, after thou did bear so much for his freedom. Now thy prophet tells in vision and in image that he saw all those who took part in the first resurrection, and that there were of each tribe 12,000. But if there are so many of them, they must have not been not men but gods. Well, that's a little bit paradoxical. You believed that man was weak and vile, but now you think that these men were like gods. They'd borne your cross. They showed what was possible. There's these people in history who were not men but gods. They showed what was possible. We don't see them right in front of us. You don't see them all around you. You know they exist. But the history books say that they were there, that they achieved things unbelievable, that they bore Christ's cross. We don't talk about them, we don't see them, but But they, and thou indeed pointed with pride at those children of freedom. He was proud at them, of free love of free and splendid sacrifice in their name. Their lives might not have gone that well, but they, he was on, God was proud of these, the Great Spirit's proud of these people, even though there weren't very many. But what about all the rest? And how are all the other weak ones to blame? Now, where's the word blame coming from? Where's the word judgment coming from here? Because they could not endure what the strong have endured. How is the weak soul to blame that it is unable to bear to receive such terrible gifts? Can thou have simply come for the elect and for the elect? And if so, it's a mystery and we can't understand it. Now I'm going to say that the reasoning mind might have a difficulty. The Inquisitor in this case has a difficulty having faith in what he doesn't understand, believing in what he doesn't understand. And if you're starting to see the frailty and weakness of the Inquisitor, he has proof that people have lived that believed in possibility and encouragement. So he has a choice. He could believe in these weak people and believe that they could be more, or he could believe that these weak people cannot be helped. And because no one knows the future, that is his choice to make. And he has chosen. If it is a mystery, we too have a right to preach a mystery and to teach men that it is not the free judgment of their hearts, not love that matters, but a mystery which they must follow blindly, even against their conscience. So forget your own conscience. That word, here's this version of conscience again. They've chosen against their conscience now to follow what they're told. They get the freedom of conscience, but they're also going against their conscience. So what we have done, we have corrected your work and founded it. That's a lot of information. And there's his central statement. Hey, you guys were weak, and so we've made things a little bit easier on you by all kinds of our justification and logic that it's going to get into here, which I may not actually go over because I don't see it as critical to this text as any. You could come up with infinite methods to control the people, and Dostoevsky just lists off some of them here. Well, why dost thou look silently and searchingly at me with thy mild eyes? Why would thou look silently and searchingly at me with thy mild eyes? Now, the Inquisitor does not believe in man, but thou hast believed in man. What does that mean? That means that the Great Spirit even still has faith in the Inquisitor, even in this moment, even with him saying all of these things and all the things he's done. He still has faith in him. That's why he's looking silently and searchingly at him. He's saying, are you going to wake up? Is there something in you? He's searching for that place in the Inquisitor, that heart in the Inquisitor that's somewhere that does have a conscience, even though he's gone so far, even though he's chosen the other side. Be angry. I don't want your love. I love you not. And what is it? What use is it for me to hide anything from you? Don't I know to whom I'm speaking? All that I can say is known to you already. And is it for me to conceal from thee our mystery? Perhaps it is your will to hear it from my lips. Well, then, we're not working with thee, but with him. That's our mystery. We are working for the other guy. For 8 centuries, the church has been working for the spirit of the wilderness, which is another way to say we are working against Christ. So, going back to people believing a general understanding of this, that Dostoevsky supports the Inquisitor, probably not. He is quite directly saying that the entire church for 8 centuries has been working for the devil. Against this freedom that men cannot seem to understand, but there's still faith that man could understand. And why would there be faith in the unseen part of man? Well, an opinion here is that there could be a belief that although the reasoning intellectual mind cannot comprehend God and seeks out miracle, mystery, and authority, that there could be another faculty dormant within a person. There's faith in a possibility that even the Inquisitor, there could be a dormant faculty latent within him that could be activated that would change the result. So if you consider that, the Inquisitor's argument starts to fall apart because he says, like, what about these millions of people who were weak and they all died and they all suffered? Millions and millions and millions of weak people. Well, he has determined that they were weak people. But faith would say that they had the latent, dormant ability to be not weak, waiting to be activated in them. And so the determination, the judgment of appearance, you see this difference between faith in circumstance is circumstance says man is weak, and faith in the unseen, we'll say present circumstance, possibility, man has something else, something strong dormant that could be activated. There's a possibility that this weak person could instantly change in a second. You don't know. You do not know what could happen. So it's faith in the possibility of the unknown outcome. You would say, well, I hate to use this metaphor, but pigs will never fall from the sky because I've never seen that happen. So it cannot happen. Well, it can happen. And it probably will happen, and it has happened. You haven't seen it happen. But the rational, reasonable mind says, well, it's improbable that will happen because, there's 24 hours in a day, and I never saw a pig fall from the sky in the last 24 hours, or one before that, or one before that. So it's improbable for that to happen. And I live in a probable universe where everything in my life is probable. Everything that's ever happened in my life has been probable. I've never seen anything miraculous. I've never seen anything out of the ordinary in my whole existence. And I believe in the probable. The only issue with that is it's insane because we do not live in a probable universe, and we do not live in a secure universe. So 8 centuries ago, we took from him the wise and mighty spirit in the wilderness. that offered to give you everything, all the kingdoms of the earth. Here you go. You side with me, and you get the power, you get the authority, you get everything you ever wanted. The reasoning mind wants all these things. The earth has yet much to suffer, but we shall triumph to be Caesars, and then we shall plan for the universal happiness of man. But thou might have taken even the sword of Caesar. Why did thou reject that last gift? Had thou rejected that last offer of the mighty spirit, he would have accomplished all that man seeks to accomplish. That is, someone to worship, someone to keep his conscience, and some means of uniting in all one unanimous and harmonious ant heap. Because the craving for universal unity is the last and third anguish of man. Now, reading that, I am quite certain he read the Zohar, because this concept is that the inverted form of unity would be a physical unity of man in the physical world, and not a spiritual universal unity of man. That we could model that in the real world is, you could say, two kinds of unity. One, you have a culture where everyone loves everyone. Two, you could have a culture where everyone accepts surface level attributes of you. I want you to accept me because of the color of my hair. And everyone will be in unity once everyone accepts everybody's color of hair. That is a superficial acceptance. It is what the Inquisitor offers, a universal conformity of the external. Mankind as a whole has always striven to organize the universal state. Many nations with great histories. And the more highly they were developed, the more unhappy they were, for they felt more acutely than other people the craving for worldwide union. The great conquerors, they went far doing this, but the unconscious expression of the same craving for universal unity. Had thou taken the world in Caesar's purple, thou wouldst have founded the universal state and given universal peace. For who can rule men, if not he who holds their conscience and their bread in his hands? We have taken the sword of Caesar, and in taking it, of course, have rejected thee and followed the devil, the spirit of the wilderness. O ages are yet to come of the confusion of free thought, of their science and cannibalism. For having begun to build their Tower of Babel without us, they will end, of course, with cannibalism. But the beast will crawl to us and lick our feet and spatter them with tears of blood, and we shall sit upon the beast and raise the cup, and on it will be written mystery. But then, and only then, the reign of peace and happiness will come for men. Thou art proud of your elect, but thou hast only the elect, while we give rest to all. And besides, how many of those elect, here is like a warning for society, how many of the good ones, the mighty ones, this is kind of written in the Tao, who could become elect, have grown weary waiting for thee, and have transferred and will transfer the powers of their spirit and the warmth of their heart to the other camp, and end by raising their free banner against thee. Now, why would that happen? You've got a good person, an elect person, they're getting tired of waiting for him, and they transfer to the other camp. Well, part of the reason is because the Inquisitor gives that guy the freedom of conscience. And that freedom of conscience causes him to turn against the Great Spirit without knowing it. He does not know that he is turning against freedom. And all will be happy and will no more rebel nor destroy one another as under your freedom. Kind of under this belief that if there was this kind of freedom, which, by the way, rises out different qualities of a person, There's no faith in that happening. So we're still talking about the belief that these weak people are going to be unhappy, that the Israelites going through the Exodus, I might be saying that wrong, that the Israelites going out of the Exodus are going to remain these unhappy, pitiful, weak human beings. And there's this like fundamental lack of faith in humanity and lack of understanding of what is inside of a person and can become activated, which is very unfortunate because many highly capable people are not aware of themselves, and because they're not aware of themselves, they are not aware of what could be possible in others. They will be convinced that they're right, for they'll remember the horrors of slavery and confusion to which thy freedom brought them. Freedom, free thought, and science will lead them to such straits and bring them face to face with such marvels and insoluble mysteries that some of them, fierce and rebellious, will destroy themselves. Others, rebellious but weak, will destroy one another, while the rest, weak and unhappy, will crawl fawning at our feet and whine to us, yes, you were right, you alone possess this mystery, and we come back to you, save us from ourselves. This is all predicated on the belief that man will remain in the weak state with his freedom, free thought, and science. You could say that man's current concept of freedom, free thought, and science are going to destroy him. But that is because it's all coming from his rational mind, and that is not his only faculty that could exist. Receiving bread from us, they will see clearly that we take the bread made from their own hands from them to give it to them without any miracle. We do not change the stones to bread, but in truth they will be more thankful for taking it from our hands than for the bread itself, if there's that comfort. The value of complete submission, and until men know that, they will be unhappy. Who's to blame? Who scattered the flock and sent it astray on unknown paths? Whoa! The Great Spirit, what he does, he scatters the flock and sends it astray on unknown paths. Whoops, I put that in the wrong spot. That's kind of interesting, isn't it? The spirit of freedom sends people on unknown paths, scattering the flock. But the Inquisitor hopes the flock will come together again and will submit once more. We'll give them the quiet, humble happiness of weak creatures that they are by nature. We'll persuade them at last not to be proud, for thou did lift them up and thereby taught them to be proud. The Great Spirit lifts them up and teaches them to be proud, even though people don't like it. What are they proud of? We'll show them that they're weak, that they're pitiful children, that childlike happiness is the sweetest of all. They'll become timid and look to us and huddle us close to us in fear as chicks to the hen. They'll marvel at us, be awestruck before us, and they'll be so proud at our being so powerful and clever that we thought to subdue such a turbulent flock of thousands of millions. They will trouble impotently before our wrath. Their minds will grow fearful. They will be quick to shed tears like women and children, but they will be just as ready at a sign from us to laughter and rejoicing, to happy mirth and childish song. We'll set them to work, and so on and so on and so on. They'll love us for everything we do for them. And it will even, blah, blah, blah. We'll let them sin if they want, then we'll forgive them. We'll take these most painful secrets of their conscience. We will relieve the burden of their conscience. They'll be glad to believe us. We'll save them from anxiety and agony. The great anxiety and agony that they would endure at present in making a free decision for themselves. And all will be happy. So, 100,000 sufferers who have taken upon themselves the curse of the knowledge of good and evil. That is the Inquisitor's tribe. They know the secrets of knowledge of good and evil, and they are going to save society with that knowledge because they have a responsibility and a role. So this is like the greatest danger of our society right now, is that we have some inspirational, motivating forces that are very intelligent, very knowledgeable, very skilled, very morally grounded, but they don't know the difference between the reasoning intellect and the natural organic mind. And because of that, they don't know that their reasoning mind is against them. And what I mean by that is the way the mind works is that as a person gets older, okay, you have the young, youthful pastor in the church, and he is inspired and believes in the Word, and he believes in God, and he's so excited for all the destiny and all these great miracles, all these things that are going to happen. And then he gets older, and he has more responsibility, and there's people who could get hurt. And he begins to fear that they could get hurt. And this is what creates a tyrant king, is fear. That he needs to control, which is what the reason the mind intellect does. He needs to control his kingdom to protect everyone, to protect the things he loves. And so he slowly joins the other camp, is what happens. He doesn't recognize it happens, but he slowly burdens himself with the curse of the knowledge of good and evil. And this will happen in our political landscape very soon. Or, I mean, it is happening, it does happen. We'll get to see it. And peacefully they'll die. Peacefully they will expire in thy name. Beyond the grave they will find nothing but death. But we'll keep the secret, and for their happiness will allure them with the reward of heaven and eternity. Though if it were for anything other in the world, it certainly would not be for such as they. And so there's the mind and the reasoning intellect's need for pride and need for validation too, is that at a certain point, it's like, I've got the responsibility. God put me in this position to be the pastor of the church, and I need to protect my flock, and there's a great turning away there, you could say. So it's prophesied that thou will come again in victory. Thou will come with thy chosen, the proud and strong. But we will say that they only saved themselves. We have saved all. And see that there's this rational ego mind. Yeah, God, great, your freedom's great, but look at all the people that I've saved. But you don't know that. You don't actually know that. You can believe that. That systems of control and order in every aspect of human society, from the prisons to apartments to companies, industries, the people are the same. The mind works the same. The belief systems of taking this responsibility to be like this guy. But I awakened and would not serve madness. I have turned back and joined the ranks of those who have corrected your work. The great correction. This is a hilarious joke if he was reading the Zohar, because the joke is that we are in a mid-correction before a final correction. And so here's this joke that the Inquisitor is in the middle of the mid-correction, and then he thinks that he's making a final correction, but does not know that thy has a final correction to his system that he hasn't seen yet. Thou shalt see that obedient flock who at a sign from me will hasten up to heap up the hot cinders about the pile on which I shall burn thee for coming to hinder us. If anyone ever has deserved our fires, it is thou. Tomorrow I shall burn thee. That's where this text ends the story. We see just what we got out of this. We got Ivan. We've got a character who he can't have been born for nothing. He needs to have meaning in his life. He can't consent to people getting hurt. A part of him has the youthful spirit. There's even this, how did this idea of God cross man's mind? And here's his mind. Man's invented God. We've invented the devil. And let's take a look at faith in possibility, or faith in what is seen, is, okay, if man invented God, you still choose to have faith in that God or not. You still have a choice to have faith in the three-dimensional mind that is flat out wrong. The deterministic mind in an indeterminate universe, that things do not play out the way that you expect them to play out. They will never play out. And you look at, what I call change agents. Change agents believe in what they do not see and bring it to pass. Victims of circumstance let everything happen to them and say that that's how things work, and they have no control their life, and there are no miracles. Their reality is validated by their Euclidean nonsense, their rebellion against the reality, the truth that existence is unknowable. Although you could know some universal laws that might give you some ways to operate. So, feed men and then ask them of virtue. I think if you could sum up the Inquisitor's position, feed men and then give them virtue. Teach them right from wrong, because they're not capable of it themselves. I think that a reasoning man, an intelligent man, a capable man, a successful man could come to believe all these things. All these people around me, I had the intelligence to figure out how to navigate this world. They don't, so they're victims, and the only person that can help them is me, and I will control them. I'm looking at you, buddy, and I hope you get to see this video one day. But not to be against you, just to have you consider these things. But Christ, who does he talk to? He has mercy on a crowd. He's giving high-level ancient secrets to a crowd of Gentiles, non-Jews, non-initiated, non-educated. He has faith in people who, by circumstantial standards, they haven't figured out their lives. They're victims of society. So why would he have faith in them to trust them with high-level secrets? I mean, he's either insane or he has a different belief in people. With free heart, decide for himself what is good and what is evil, having only thy image before him as thy guide. There's a real responsibility. You have if you were to choose what is good and what is evil and have only thy image before you as your guide, you have the risk of being a blasphemer. But who are you at risk of being a blasphemer to? That's a good question. So if you know how the story ends, the story ends with Christ kissing the Inquisitor on the lips. And take a look at that. I have spoken. Your poem is in praise of Jesus, not in blame of him as you meant it to be. I mean, you're actually exalting the spirit of freedom and these ideas. And who will believe you about freedom? Who will believe you about this true freedom that people don't know about, this heretical, blasphemous freedom that the rational, reasoning mind? See, Ivan has the understanding. Ivan actually understands the great spirit of freedom. Dostoevsky understands the great spirit of freedom that men do not recognize. To give an example, that men do not recognize that they can break the scene as the elder breaks the scene of the gun showdown. That even though someone is going to shoot you and the normal behavior would be to be a respectful general and engage in the duel and kill the other guy, that you could actually at that moment look up and this absolute childlike absurdity and be like, what are we doing? And this concept, which I hope to someday go into, has a lot to do with a standing for a principle of man that is outside of time and place. And they'll say that about the ancients, that these ancients are operating outside of the current circumstance, as if they were from another time. That you could actually break the scene at any moment. You could actually break the behavior of your own mind, your own beliefs about yourself, what you would do, what you would think, what you would say. You could do something that, I mean, this usually only happens if you're inspired. Maybe to write a book like the Grand Inquisitor, the brothers Karamazov. You might say that is a unconventional behavior, but let's say you were inspired by someone who did something so absurd. You might break the script and do something that you would not normally do. And these conversations stirs up Alyosha quite a bit here. Now, my old Inquisitor, he tried. He had made himself eat roots. He had efforts to subdue his flesh and make himself free and perfect. It didn't work. All his life, he loved humanity. His eyes were open, and he realized that man, this is the circumstances that I live in. There's no great moral blessedness to attain perfection and freedom. And he becomes convicted that we've just kind of been created as a mockery, that God's just kind of laughing at us. We're never going to be capable of using our freedom. We've got these Euclidean minds, these poor rebels that have idealism. They'll never turn into giants and complete the tower. That's kind of mythologically true. Moses does not reach the promised land, right? And so it wasn't for the geese that these great idealists dreamt his dream of harmony. You got this great dream of harmony. It's never going to happen. The world's always going to work the way it is. Join with whom? What clever people? They have no such great cleverness, no mysteries and secrets. They are perhaps nothing but atheism. That's all their secret. These are atheistic scientists that see the not even the objective world, but like the circumstances of their times. It's true that this whole secret, but isn't that suffering? At least for a man like that? I'm ending here. Okay, soon. A couple minutes. Who has wasted his whole life in the desert, and yet could not shake off his incurable love for humanity. In his old age, he's reached a clear conviction that nothing but the advice of the great dread spirit could build up any sort of tolerable life for the feeble, unruly, incomplete, empirical creatures created in jest. And so, convinced of this, he sees that he must follow the counsel of the wise spirit, the dread spirit of death and destruction, and therefore accept lying and deception, and lead men consciously to death and destruction, and yet deceive them all the way so that they may not notice where they're being led. So he loses faith in humanity and then leads everyone else to the same direction he's going. This is expressed in the series Attack on Titan with one of the villains towards the end. This is also expressed in the Brothers Karamazov. Just before this is that Alyosha comes and tries to give a man money, but the man is so prideful that he cannot accept the money, and he is even at the cost of serious responsibility. He is a weak man. He's a very weak fellow, and this is painted as the same picture as that man happens to be frail and elderly, and the Inquisitor also happens to be frail and elderly. From a psychological standpoint, you could say that the man that Alyosha gives money to is the passive pole of the Grand Inquisitor, and the Grand Inquisitor is the active pole of this man this accursed old man who is a victim and has decided to be active about his victimhood. And, well, I can't control everything and I have no faith, but I'll burn down the earth in my weakness and my revenge. So we found a whole multitude of such old men, existing not by chance but by agreement, as a secret league formed long ago for the guardian of mystery, to guard from the weak and the unhappy, so as to make them happy. No doubt it's so. I fancy that even among the Masons there's something of the same mystery at the bottom, and that's why the Catholics so detest the Masons as their rivals, for breaking up the unity of the idea, while it's so essential that there might be one flock and one shepherd. But from the way I defend my idea, I might be an author impatient of your criticism. Enough of it. You are perhaps a Mason yourself. You don't believe in God? How does your poem end? Or was this the end? I meant to end it like this. The old man longed for him to say something, however bitter and terrible. His conscience is not clear. You see that? That is why he longs for him to say something, however bitter and terrible. He's looking at gentleness in the face. But he suddenly approached the old man in silence and softly kissed him on the bloodless, aged lips. That was all his answer. The old man shuddered. His lips moved. He went to the door, opened it, and said to him, "Go and come no more. Come not at all. Never, never." Christ has mercy on the man. He still gives him mercy, unconditional mercy, and shows that that's possible even if you were the Inquisitor. Even the Inquisitor who has completely turned his back on all humanity, all hope, all freedom, all possible meaning, and that Christ is definitely not in the strong position here, and yet he still has the freedom of choice to have mercy on the Inquisitor. And what's interesting is the Inquisitor does not kill Christ. The kiss glows in his heart, but the old man adheres to his idea. So he stays in his reasoning, rational mind. But Christ did change his decision, because he said, "I am going to burn you at the stake." And that is not how this story ends. So there has been a change. The mercy actually had an effect on the character. He has changed his decision to have malice and turned around and let him go and walk away. That is there has been a correction. Surely you don't suppose I'm going off straight to the Jesuits to join the men who are correcting his work? It's no business of mine. And so, with such a hell in your heart and your head, how can you? That's just what you're going away for, to join them. If not, you'll kill yourself. You can't endure it. There's a strength to endure everything. The strength of the sensualists. Everything is lawful, you mean? Everything is lawful, is that it? So this is like the Christian response to the idea of not comprehending freedom, which is also the same problem that the Inquisitor has, is that the Inquisitor's concept of freedom has to do with freedom to sin, which is what is expressed by everything is lawful. But Dostoevsky's freedom is freedom to have the innate qualities of man. And I really hope to get to draw a parallel in the future between this and a text that I believe that Dostoevsky based his work upon. Alyosha got up, went to him, and softly kissed him on the lips. And Ivan says the formula, all is lawful. I won't renounce. No, there's his reasoning mind not renouncing that. Because he has no way of explaining that concept of freedom to Alyosha. All is lawful is pretty much the best he can say. I believe originated by the Theosophists, but I don't know the time frame there, so I could be wrong. And that's the end of this. So, general psychology, should you have faith in others or not? That is all. Thank you.